And the vows are the same way. Unless you understand each vow, each step, it makes it that much harder to go to the next thing and then to the next thing. Because as you can see, and as they will see, as we go down the line, it gets harder and harder and harder. It gets
And
more
it's and, it,
difficult.
and it's supposed to be that way. All right. Welcome to another uh the Blue Wall.
Episode.
The Blue Wall podcast with Calvin and Shonda, where we bring all issues to
To
the
the
wall.
wall.
All right. So, babe, we are in this whole marriage situation.
Hmm.
We're still talking about that. And today, you came up with the concept of talking about the vows.
Yes, they are very important.
Very important. And then I guess picking apart all of them to to see what's the importance of them, and then also on top of that, like how God sees the vows.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's something that's really important also. That's what we want to talk about today. So we're talking about the vows, the importance of the vow. So so let's look at all of them. I got because we're pastors. I got I got the marriage vows on my phone for
Hmm.
for when we've ever done or do weddings, which we've done quite a bit of them. So let's pick apart the first one. Well, why why are vows important? Like, as far as God is concerned, why are they important?
Vows are important because it's a covenant between you and God. It's a sacred promise. It was meant to be something that was sealed in blood and could never be broken. And so, vows came in to place um when you were in a position to guarantee something, or if you wanted to, give your word, something to show that you're trustworthy, you made a vow. And what they used to do before, in the old times, you hear of blood vows. They would, say whatever promise. They would cut their hands and they would intermingle blood, meaning that once you intermingled the blood, it couldn't be broken, because there's
Mm,
no way, once you mix blood, there's no way to separate the blood of the two different people again. So
right,
it was meant to symbolize that that vow or that promise or that word could not be broken.
right. So I think so you brought up the word covenant, which, and I agree. I agree that blood has to be, because that's essentially what Jesus did for us. He
Yeah,
bled,
shed his blood. Yeah,
shed his blood. That that started the new covenant.
covenant.
That
Hmm.
started the new um, um, agreement. Okay, so because I think a lot of times when people think when Jesus was on the earth, when he was ministering, when he was talking, when he was doing miracles and all of that, that it was that started the New Testament. No, it didn't start the New Testament until he died, because
Yes,
blood had to be shed
yes,
in order
yes.
for a covenant to be made. So we say a covenant is also an agreement.
Hmm.
It's an agreement between two people. So let's say we do like a business deal, and in business, what we do is we
Hmm.
shake hands on that deal. We write up a contract. We sign the contract, and that seals that agreement, that seals that
Yes,
covenant. So
yes,
that way, when you if you do have to go to court, you have proof that there was an agreement.
absolutely.
Because there's no such thing as a verbal agreement.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
There's no such thing as a verbal agreement.
No.
No. The papers have to be filed. Now, we can get into the debate about, like, was there marriage vows in the Old Testament and all of that and whatever this and that. That's for another day. But for here, um, so it's a covenant, is an agreement. So let's look at the first one. So whenever whenever we performing weddings, babe, what we normally do is we give them their vows to. So this is specifically to the bride because she goes first to take her husband, whoever, blah 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 blah, to be my wedded husband. To here's the first one. Here's the first one, and I don't think we ever talk about this one. I don't think we ever when you were saying when we were talking earlier about what we were going to talk about today. I started thinking about these the first two, to have and to hold from this day forward. To have and to hold. What in the world? So, what does that mean? To have and to hold.
To have and to hold, to me, means that you now have possession, quote unquote possession.
To have?
Yes, to have and to hold. That means you have possession. You have a legal authority or a legal right now. You are establishing your right to be with that person.
Wow. You really think that's what it is?
That's what I think it is. What do you think it is?
Legal possession. No, I'm thinking about what you said, because you said legal possession. That's not going to work well with this generation.
Yeah, because nobody wants to be responsible. I think that this generation doesn't want to be responsible, and therefore, to not be responsible, they don't claim possession of something. They don't claim possession. So you can't be responsible to care for something, for the care and the how should I say, like the care and the concern for something, if you don't have possession of it. It's like borrowing somebody else's thing, like borrowing somebody else's car. When you're borrowing somebody else's car, you still, even though you're driving it, you don't possess ownership of it.
Right.
And
right.
so that's why people who rent rental cars tear them up. They got food on the floor. They do any old kind of thing with it because it's not their possession. So they don't value it as much as they do their own vehicles that they own and they're responsible to clean.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just
no,
saying.
no. And I agree. I agree with you 100%. But that's what I'm saying. That what you just said is not going to gel with this generation that we're unfortunately in.
Unfortunately.
Like how can we engage people to understand that it is a possession to have? Like you're my possession. I'm your possession.
Exactly.
Now that is not in a domineering way.
Correct.
It's not a domineering way.
Correct.
Because just because you take possession of something doesn't, like you said, doesn't mean you dominate it. Like
you don't mean get to use and abuse it.
You don't get to use and abuse it. But I took possession of you and you took possession of me.
Correct.
Like, how do we engage people in this generation to understand that it's not a bad thing to possess something?
Depending on who the person is, you may not be able to get them to understand that, because
you may
again,
not be. Yeah.
What you have to understand is when you get married, right? Everybody wants the privileges
Absolutely.
of marriage,
Absolutely.
right? That, I have the right to, have sex with my husband or my wife. I have the right to do this. I have the right to have access to your bank account. I have the right? Everybody wants the right, but nobody wants to talk about the responsibility. So yeah, I have a right to now, have sex with you and all the benefits that come along with marriage. But now my responsibility is to make sure that I'm.
Look at me.
Okay.
No, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Wait, let me turn this way.
Yeah. That way we. Yeah. But just make sure you're talking to me. But it Yeah, that's not gonna gel well with this generation. But in our generation, what we grew up in, we grew up that I own you, you own me. Not again, not in a domineering way, not in a way that I get to tell you what to do. No, it's not that I get to tell you what to do. Um, I get the privilege and honor to be able to give my opinion of it. You get the privilege and honor of giving your opinion, and then we can both, form some type of an agreement on something on something specific. So, like to have and to hold. What does hold? What do you think hold means?
Hold means to me to hold you in a higher regard than anybody else. To hold
I like
your
that. No,
to
I
hold
like that.
to hold your opinion, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, make them more important to me than anybody else's.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
you hold, of course, we all know that God is first place in our lives. God is first place. He should be first place in everything. But after God, then you. Not even the children comes
Yeah,
after God. It's
absolutely.
God and then you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When I was thinking about hold, um, I was also thinking about to hold you up, to hold um, as far as when it comes to good times and bad times, to like when we holding each other, like we got each other's back. Like I'm not gonna allow you to fall,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna allow me to fall.
Correct. Yeah.
We're gonna hold each other up, or we're gonna hold each other up in prayer.
Yeah, that too.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that
That,
too.
that that's another aspect of marriage. It's prayer. Is I get the privilege of holding you up in prayer, and you get the privilege of holding me up in prayer, and that I think that makes marriage so much not better and not easier, but I think it just makes it more palatable to be able to get through tough times and
Yeah.
whatever. Like I got your back. I'm gonna hold you. And then here's another thing. I'm also, not only do I have your back, and I'm gonna hold you in prayer. I'm gonna hold you when times are rough, but also I'm gonna hold you accountable.
Yes, that part too.
What do you what do you
Yes.
what do you think about that?
Now
Now,
that's
do
a
you agree with me on that?
I agree. I agree, but that's a curse
To
word.
yeah,
Sorry, let me fix
yeah.
this. I agree, but that is
Turn the thing. No, once you put it up, just turn it.
this
Yeah.
or this.
No, the one that you had, the one that you had. Turn it the other way. Nope, the other way. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
agree, but I think that is an absolute curse word to this generation.
Well, hold you accountable.
Hold you accountable. Nobody. You know what? This world we have gone.
And I don't think it's just this generation. I don't think it's just because I mean
It's
there's
not
a
just this generation, but
because
it
I
gets
think a lot
worse every
it
generation.
gets worse in every generation. Because I know even in our generation, accountability is something like that. That is definitely a curse word. That is something that you don't hold me accountable. You don't own me. You don't hold me
That's because
accountable.
people have misunderstood the purpose of submission and the purpose of accountability.
Right.
And they have used that as a stick to use and abuse the other person
Right.
rather
Absolutely.
than saying,
Absolutely.
hey, we need to make these, we need to, would you consider making these changes in your habits, in your thought, in your mind process, in your way of doing things so that it's more comfortable to
So
me?
would you think? And I think you bring up another point. So even in accountability, you also have to be tactful in your in the way that I approach you.
Ooh, you better walk on
Like
pins and
I don't
needles.
think it's just walking on pins and needles. I do think I think it has everything to do with wisdom and being tactful about how I'm going to approach you with it. Even though I know I got to hold you accountable, but there's also a way for me to be able to do it. I can't approach you as saying I'm gonna hold you accountable for what you did and this and that, blah 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 blah. No, I have to think thoroughly about how I can be able to approach you in a way that is sweet.
Which brings to light or to mind or to the
Mm,
forefront that old saying. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if you feel like you need to hold me accountable to something, it's not a matter of, hey, you did this wrong, get yourself together.
mm.
That's gonna escalate the situation.
Oh,
But like
absolutely,
you said, if you come sweet,
absolutely,
hey, listen, can we talk about
absolutely.
this? And then when you talk about issues, talk about the way that those issues made you feel.
Mm, mm.
Okay? Don't just, because see, the argument is not about, the argument to me is more about how that thing made you feel rather than the end result of it. You understand?
Right.
So because the just like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, the insult is in the eye of the beholder, right? So if I do something, if I say something
Mm.
and you take it offensively, well, I didn't take it offensively.
Absolutely.
Because I'm the only one that knows what I'm thinking.
Right.
And so then you need to hold me accountable to say, "Hey, can I talk to you about that? This is what you said and this is how it made me feel."
And then that gives me the ability to hold myself accountable
Correct.
for how I approached you with it, because I may not necessarily had that in mind when I came to you, but you took it in a way that is offensive.
Hmm.
And so now I have to hold myself accountable, because a lot of times that's something that we used to struggle with, because I would say something, and because like I said last time we talked about this, I'm very passionate with what I'm saying.
Hmm.
I'm very passionate. It can come off very offensive, and
Yeah.
it can come off like I'm trying to, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to explain it in a way where you can be able to understand it. But because of my approach and my passive approach, it can lead to you being offended. So when you say, "Hey, I'm gonna hold you accountable for why you said for what you said, not what you said, but how you said it, and whatever. This is the way I took it." Then I could be able to hold myself accountable and say, "Yeah, you know what? I wasn't trying to convey it in that way. This is what I was trying to say."
But 22 years in, I think we're just now getting to the place where that is happening on a consistent basis. Because I remember there was a time where you would say things and I will come back at you like, don't talk to me like that, or who you think you're talking to,
Right,
kind of
exactly.
thing. But one thing for me, even though, like, I'm a talker, okay, I'm a talker, everybody that knows me personally knows that I'm a talker. So
Mm,
while I have no problem saying what I want to say, I have problems communicating my feelings.
yeah, absolutely.
So I was attacking you like, who you think you talking to,
Absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
and coming at you like that, as opposed to saying, hey, when you said that, this is how it made me feel. Because one of the things was, i didn't have the words to I didn't have the words to articulate my past.
Mm,
So I wasn't necessarily articulating that, hey, something in my past is still hurting me.
yeah.
And when you say this, it reminds me of that hurt, or it reopens that wound.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where it comes into place. Hey, that's why you have to say, hey, this is how it made me feel. And this is why it made me feel that way.
Yeah.
You know,
And then also and then I get to be able to hold myself accountable in saying, hey, listen, like that's not the way that I was trying to convey it. I didn't know that it hurt you in that way,
mm-hmm,
because that's the way that I was trying to say. But then also, and I'm a flip this too. But it also holds yourself
I
accountable
was about to go there.
holds yourself accountable on how your past, like some of the things in your past have to be healed,
Mm-hmm.
because if you I think a lot of times where where we in marriages, well, in my past I've dealt with such and such and such and such, and you can't come to me that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person works on it, or your spouse works on it, but it's still there. That hurt is still there. It's not healed. It's covered up, but it's not there. So there is a element in me that or you, that you have to hold yourself accountable on working towards your healing.
Yeah, yeah,
Working towards your healing,
absolutely.
because I think, if not, then just because something is covered up doesn't mean it is gone. And I think that's a lot of times when we were talking about when it comes to canceling certain people,
Yeah.
canceling and blocking people out of your cell phone and this and that. I'm a block you so you can't call me and this and that. Only thing you did was just put a sheet over it.
And you never dealt with the underlying
You
issue.
never dealt with you never
and that's
dealt
when
with it.
infection seeps in
If-
and
if-
sits
if
and it
it's-
gets worse.
And it gets worse. And you think I blocked you out of my life. I blocked you out of my situation. But no, it's not that. So it's holding each other accountable, but then also holding yourself accountable for certain things. Like even like the other day, we had a discussion on the situation, on something that I said that that you had specifically said, when you always say that, you hurt me. And I was like, that's not what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to say such and such and such. I was only trying to say this and this and that, blah 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 blah. Once I explained it, I'm pretty sure from your response, because I asked you, now do you understand what you were saying? You say, yeah, I do understand, or whatever, and this and that. But I do still think that there is still an underlining thing that needs to be dealt with. You understand? You understand what I'm
I
saying?
agree. I agree. And, as far as holding ourselves accountable, I agree with that, but I would like to just add one additional aspect. And this is what I find myself having to
Yeah.
do. So, I have to find myself and hold myself accountable to my understanding
Right.
of
Right.
how you
Right.
view me
Right.
and
Right.
how
Right.
and your intentions for me.
Right. Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
for
Yeah, that's
example,
good.
that discussion
That's
we had,
good. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I brought a situation to you.
Yeah.
You responded to the situation
Right.
with what you thought,
Mm-hmm.
but what you said hurt my feelings and
Yeah.
made me feel as though you were downing me or giving me
Right.
negative feedback.
Right.
And so I came back at you like, why are you giving me negative feedback? I
Right.
don't want to hear negative feedback from you. I want you to just
Right.
support me and let's go with it together.
Right.
And then, we had that discussion and, so from what I identified from that is that in that moment of having hurt feelings and being hurt, and even afterwards, after you clearly stated how you
Mhm.
feel, I understood what you said, but there was still a part of me that was like, okay, Shonda, you got to realize that he loves you,
Right.
and he really is not trying to hurt you. Because
Absolutely.
even though you apologized for how it made me feel, I still had that underlying, like, something in the background, like, you better not say that again, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 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 And that could be detrimental too. That could be detrimental, because you know how you know for me, if I apologize for something and you say I accept your apology, to me I'm done. Like, I'm done with the situation.
mm-hmm.
I'm ready to kind of move on and whatever. For you, it takes you a little while to process.
Yes, it does.
It takes you
Yes,
a
it
while. I
does.
think we talked about that
Mm-hmm.
in our first what's the name? It takes you a lot of time to be able to process. And I'm just like, no, I have to give you, as your husband, I have to give you negative feedback. Like, I can't always. I can't always, and same thing with you. Like when I do something, or if I'm trying to accomplish something, I'll ask you, what do you think about this? Or did you like this? Or like, did you like what I said? Or even like when it comes to cooking, did you like what did you like it? Yeah, it was good. Okay, well, no, I don't want you to tell me that it's good. No, I want you to tell me, give me some feedback so that I can be better at what I'm doing. It's negative criticism is necessary, not all the time, but some of the time. For me, I like negative criticism.
I do not.
She does. She don't at all. She don't like it.
I don't want
I
to hear
like it because I like to and even though I may get pissed, I still like it because I'm like, okay, now I could be able to go back to the drawing board and do it a little bit different, where I'm gaining more of your approval and on certain things because I value your opinion. I value your approval
Yeah.
of something that I did. That's the reason why I asked for feedback and whatever and this and that. So a lot of times when you talking to me, we're still talking about holding. So a lot of times when you're talking to me about a situation or something that you did, I'm always thinking of not so much the I'm thinking of, well, how did you go wrong in that situation? You know what I'm saying? Not to be negative, but how did you go wrong in it? Let me see if I can give you some wisdom on maybe approaching it another way, and that way that you could be able to see the other side of such and such and such. So like, when I'm talking to you, I'm just like, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help. You don't always like help. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to hold you accountable. But I'm also holding myself accountable because I'm like, I can't always be like, oh, you did great. That's good.
No, but see, as a woman, that's all I want to hear. Is,
Yeah, I
wonderful,
know.
honey.
Well, wonderful,
I don't want to
honey.
hear. I don't want to hear the negative stuff. I
But
don't.
see, me, I can't. There is no way for growth. There's no way for growth if I can't hear the negative stuff.
Yeah, but my thing is, and in my opinion, is if I want to hear negative, I'll ask. I'll ask for it. I don't want you to volunteer
But
it.
is that accountability though?
Of course.
Is that accountable?
Of
All right,
course.
so let's think about it. All right, so I'm your boss. You are working for me, and you do something and whatever this and that, blah 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 blah. Now I'm your boss. I'm supposed to hold you accountable for something, but you're wanting to hear from me as a partnership in this specific business. You always wanting to hear from me. Good job, Shonda. This and that, blah 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 blah. But when is there a time where, as your boss, I get to say, you did a great job, but here's what you can do to be able to improve.
So I think that if there is a time where you're gonna give constructive criticism, it needs to be in a setting where we can sit down and have a discussion where you're not just throwing out the negative
That's good.
words or just throwing out
That's
the
good.
negative thoughts, and then we don't talk about it any
That's
further.
good. That's
because
good.
because in any situation, whether it's a boss employee relationship, whether it's a husband wife relationship, if it's a parent child, if all you hear is the negative
Right,
first,
right,
it makes me
right.
give up. It makes me feel like, for what? Like, forget it.
Right.
So like I remember, as a kid, doing things, and okay, I may have gotten an 85 on something. Oh, that was nice, but you should have got 100. It was like, well, dang, well, it ain't even worth telling you about the 85.
Yeah,
It ain't even
yeah.
worth telling you about the B.
Yeah,
when all
exactly.
you can hear is, oh, well, I should have got an A, or like, don't,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if I'm coming to you, then I'm coming to you, for your approval, for your support. But if I come around and say, well, hey, do you think I could have improved, or what do you think I could have done better, should
So
have,
it's
like,
the
wait for
timing.
me
It's
to
the timing.
invite that.
So
Yeah,
it's the
it's
timing.
timing. So
It's
wait for me to
timing.
invite that conversation, as opposed to saying, oh, well, that's good, well, this and that. So
Yeah.
you say, oh, that's good one time, but then you give me five things that negates my good, and it's like, well, dang, you done killed the good. Now this whole situation that was supposed to be good
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
now turned
That's good.
bad.
No,
And
that's
so then
good.
that makes me shut down
Yeah.
and not want to communicate
Yeah.
with you. And I will
Absolutely.
just hold in my successes, because every time I come to you, you give me
Yeah.
crop failure.
And the only thing and the only thing I'm trying to do is, and this goes on in a lot of marriages, not just
It
in
does.
ours, but only thing I'm trying to do is to push you to be better. I'm just trying to push you to be better, but it could come off in a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
It could, it's like almost like the Peter syndrome. The Peter syndrome is I act before I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Peter used to do. He would just act without thinking. He would
Yeah.
say stuff without thinking,
Yeah.
thinking about it. He would say stuff without trying to, and a lot of times Jesus had to shut him all the way down for him to understand, like, you're not in a position to be able to do that with me.
Yeah.
We boys, but you're not in that position, and whatever. And on top of that, Peter also had bad timing in some of the things that he did, and some of the things that he said. So, like, that's one of the things that I know I have to work on, because I can be that Peter, because that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's not what you're looking for. What I'm looking for is not so much criticism. I'm looking for, you did a great job, but here's how you could be able to improve, and whatever, and this and that. And then there's times where I just want to hear you did a great job, and whatever. And then I'll come to you later and say, hey, what did you think about such and such?
That brings up one good thing. We have to be very careful in relationships not to give the other person what we need. We need to give them what they need.
Right.
You got to give them what they need. So
Right.
I am
Right.
a person.
Right.
I
That's good.
need
Yeah.
positive affirmation.
Absolutely.
I need positive feedback.
It took me
I
years to
need,
figure that.
yeah,
Figure that out. No, it took me a long time. It took me a long time to be able to figure that you need positive. What you need affirmation,
yeah.
because affirmation is positive. You need you need
That's
affirmation.
my love language.
That's your love language. It took me years in order to figure that out, because only thing whenever I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
I want to make you better.
Yeah.
And
And I'm like, I don't need to be better right now. I need to be. I need to be celebrated.
yeah, I need to be celebrated, and I just didn't know where to celebrate you at. I thought what I was doing was celebration.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
And that's why you have to be open to your
Yeah.
partner being able to say back to you, okay, but not okay. Like, all right, but yeah, that kind of hurt me. That kind of muffed me up a little bit.
But then also, yeah, and then and then again, and then I can hold myself accountable on and saying, and that's really hard for me too, to be able to reflect on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let me reflect. Let me listen to what you're saying, and let me see the wrong that I'm doing. Because I think a lot of times husbands sometimes and wives they don't actually see the wrong that they're actually doing. They don't see the wrong that they're doing. They're doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. Whatever. But even in what you're supposed to do, you can be 100% wrong.
And again, being wrong is in the eye of the beholder. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
here's where some people argue. Well, I'm not wrong, and this and that. Da, da, da. See, it does.
Yeah.
I remember in college taking a class called public communication.
Oh, absolutely.
And in public communication, the main I forget the exact terms and all that stuff. But one of the main things my teacher said that even sticks to me years later is that communication has nothing to do with what's being said. Has nothing to do with it. Communication has everything to do with what's being received.
Received.
So you can argue all day, that's not what I said and that's not how I meant. But guess what? It's irrelevant what you meant. The only relevancy is how I received it and how it made me feel.
Right.
So if you're going to fix anything, it's not saying you have to fix what, necessarily fix what you're saying. No, you need to fix what I'm receiving.
Right.
So
Right.
if you're not intending to make me receive something negative, then you need to do, what you have to do through additional communication and sitting down and identifying this and that. And so you need to identify, those parts of me that would not make me receive ill will.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. And vice versa. I just thought that was very interesting, that communication has nothing to do with what's being said, but has everything to do with what's being received.
Yeah, because what's being said could be factual, could be truth.
Yeah.
But if it's received in the wrong way,
Yep.
it's automatic offense.
Yep.
It's automatic
Absolutely.
not received because of the way that it's coming out. So
Absolutely.
But yeah. So wow, we took a long time and have it to hold. Let's do this last one and then we'll finish up. We'll do like a part 2, I guess.
Okay.
For better or for worse?
Got to be more careful. You mean for better and better?
That's what I heard one lady said. While she was doing the vows, she said for better, for better.
Better and
No.
better.
There's no such vow as for better or for better or for better.
Why not?
Because even with God, where is it in this Bible that says for better or for better? That's prosperity preaching and teaching. No, everything ain't all better. Now it may get better.
Yeah. Wow. That's good.
But everything ain't better. Like it, and I think if everything was better, you would never have a testimony. If everything was better, you would never have a time where you can be able to say to a person, "Hey, I went through what you went through." If everything was better. You do have to go through some worse times, even in marriage. You gotta go through some stuff. Like you can't. The honeymoon is beautiful. The honeymoon is great. Is when you get home from the honeymoon, everything starts.
Yeah, that's when and all the attention is all for you. That's when the real marriage begins.
That's when the real marriage begins. But if you really think about it, the marriage actually begun. The moment that you said the vows. So the marriage actually begun, and then also when there was, when you come together and make a blood covenant, because that's what that is, making a blood covenant, then the marriage is 100% sealed. Once that happens, you have to know this. I'm looking to this camera. You have to know this, that the enemy is going to come.
He's coming for
and
you.
Wreak.
He's pulling out all stops.
He is going to wreak havoc. You literally have a target on you. You literally have a target on you. That's one of the reasons why it says for better or for worse. Because you're gonna go through some better times, but then you're also gonna go through some worse times.
I think the worst times begin when you start to get to know the intimate inner workings of the other person. So meaning this, I don't care how long you date or how long you court or how long you're engaged for, right? You never really know that person until you live with them for some time. So, I mean, in today's society, people live together for umpteen million years before they decide if they want to get married. That is not the way, the Bible encourages it to be done because of the whole issue of sex and intimacy, But, like for us, we didn't live together before we got married.
No,
We
no.
dated for a long time. We
Yeah.
courted for a long time. Got to
Yeah.
know each other. We knew we loved each other. We were best friends and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But even when, with us being best friends, it took us living together and it took a few months. Because again, in the beginning, everything is all good. You still have Twilight, new bride, and all that stuff, new husband. But it becomes a steep learning curve to now learn to love you and live with you. See, I loved you
Yeah. Yeah.
before I lived with you.
Yeah.
But now I have to love you and live with you.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of, you know, I'm not going to say dissatisfaction, cuz it's not really dissatisfaction. It's the reality of life. So like when we got off the phone, when we were dating, when we got off the phone, and we each went to sleep, it was like I had to imagine what you were doing, you know. But because I loved you so much and I was so in love with you, when I got off the phone with you, all I thought was, oh, he's just sleeping on a pillow of clouds, and oh, he's just so handsome when he sleeps, and oh,
Wow.
and he doesn't snore, and he doesn't this, he does, you don't think anything
And I
negative.
don't snore unless I'm tired.
Yeah, right. Okay, so say no, I'm kidding.
I'm just.
No, you don't.
I don't snore
But I'm
unless
just saying.
I'm mad tired.
But I'm just saying. But then, what if we, when we got married, then all of a sudden it goes from, me imagining you sleeping on pillows and being so handsome while you sleep and just being so perfect, to now I'm living with you, I'm in the bed with you, and now you are snoring out of control, and all I want to do is smother you with a pillow. Like, what do you do then? It's like what? So that's when the learning curve starts, and that's when I'm not even gonna say the harsh reality. That's when the reality
It could
of
be harsh.
living with
It
you
could be hard. It
is
could be
like,
harsh. Yeah,
you
it
know,
could be harsh. And understand this. That's still not the worst.
no, it's not.
Like that's still not the worst.
No, it's not the worst. But for some people, like
But for
it's a
some people,
problem.
it's a huge problem.
Yeah, yeah.
These little things become so huge, and a lot of times, like when we hear like other marriages and what they're going through, we just be like, "What? Like, are you
Just
serious
shake our head like,
right
is that
now?
your worst problem?
Is that your worst, man? Let me tell you what's worse. Let me give you some serious issues that you are probably going to have in your marriage. So we pledge together that we're going to stay together. We're going to live together. We're going to love each other through better times, also, and through worse of times. Let me tell you what the worst comes in. And it's not sickness. It's not any of those which we're going to be talking about later on. I think the worst comes in miscommunication and misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Miscommunication, misunderstanding,
Absolutely.
and not willing to take the time to correct the misunderstanding or the miscommunication. I think sometimes, like if I you say to me such and such and such and such, I automatically get offended.
Yeah.
All right, so now automatically get offended. Now I'm now my emotions is in another place where I'm like, okay, well, shoot, I could be doing something else. I don't have to be here. I don't have to do that. I don't have to go through this and whatever and this and that, blah 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 blah. And it could have been just a misunderstanding, but it turns into something huge and big when it was something maybe small.
Because it's pride. It's pride. Nobody wants to put their pride aside. And, everybody, usually wants to, I want to be right. I got to be right. I got to be right. I got to be right. Not understanding that that's pride. And unless you put your pride aside, there's no way to build that bridge of communication.
This is one that goes back to why it's important for us to be able to have some type of counseling, some type of premarital engagement where you could be able to talk to somebody, because dating and marriage are two distinctions. It's two
They're
different. It's
not
two
the
different
same.
things. and especially when like I said earlier, when it comes to the enemy, that you could date. The devil don't mind you dating. He don't mind you courting. He don't mind you doing this and that. But he'll help you. He'll help you to have sex. He'll help you to do all that while you're dating or
All
whatever.
that
This
stuff.
and that. It's the moment that you cross over to marriage. That's when it's like, okay. And the reason why he does not like marriage is because marriage is a literally it is a institution not only by God, but it's also a picture of how God loves us
Yes,
because
yes,
we're
yes,
in a
yes,
marriage together with God.
yes.
So he'll never ever get that back.
Yeah.
That intimate relationship that he had with God. I'm talking about Satan. He will never ever get that back. So when he looks at marriages, which is a symbol of
Yeah.
what he used to have with God,
Yeah.
he attacks any marriage. It don't matter what kind. You could be in God, you could be Buddhist, you could be Muslim, any kind of marriage. He is going to come after that. He's going to come after that marriage hard,
Absolutely.
hard. So you know, even in this, when we talking about miscommunication and misunderstanding, like there has to be a time where you come together and really talk about and instead of taking offense so fast. That's what I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
I used to take offense so fast, like and not even think about what you were saying because you were saying about receiving because that's the most important. That's the
Yeah.
most important. It's not the communication. It's not the information. The information can be factual and true. It's the receiving part of it. That's where I had an issue. That I had a problem with that. With receiving, because I'm like you trying to bring me down, and you were really just trying to help in certain situations or
Yeah.
whatever. But I just took offense so fast without even thinking about, hey, no, this is what she probably actually meant, and that was the same thing what you was talking about with me. I mean, we're still talking about communication. Same thing when you was talking with me, when you were saying how was you were saying as far as the way that you were receiving stuff from me. It was the same exact way.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same exact way, and it for me, it was always your tone.
Mm-hmm.
It was always your tone. Like I always say, Shauna, work on how you talking to me, not what you're saying to me. You can say
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want, but work on how you talking to me. But I used to get so offended so fast without even thinking, hey, she really actually loves me. She's not trying to hurt me in any way, and whatever. So, this better or for worse
Yeah.
thing, it goes a long ways. And I know, the for better and for worse is leading up to the sickness and the health and richer and poor and different things.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that later in part two.
And the vows are the same way. Unless you understand each vow, each step, it makes
Mm-hmm.
it that much harder to go to the next thing and then to the next thing because as you can see and as they will see as we go down the line, it gets harder and harder and harder. It gets
And
more difficult.
it's supposed to be that way.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be that way because that's what a marriage is. And if you think about it, the relationship that we have with God, it's the same way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the same way. It's built to get hard, so that you can be able to understand each other, and then also understand how important it is to stay together in those times.
Yes.
Because even when it comes to your relationship with God, it's going to get worse. Things are going to happen. Things God is going to allow to happen,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily mean that He hates you. Doesn't necessarily mean that He despises you. No, it means that I have to test you in this area to check your loyalty. Like God is always constantly checking our loyalty.
And also checking our growth.
Oh,
Any
absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
relationship is a living,
Absolutely.
breathing entity.
Absolutely.
We start
Absolutely.
at one level, but we don't stay there. We have to grow. Just
Yeah.
like we grow in grace, we grow
Yeah.
in God, we grow in wisdom, we grow in
Absolutely.
knowledge, and we grow in understanding. And
Absolutely.
so we also have to grow in our relationships.
Yeah, we have to grow in our relationships and to know that, you know, God has you. He knows what's the situations that you're going on in your marriage. He knows what's going on, and then you could be able to communicate with him, and not just with each other,
Yes,
but you could be
correct.
able to communicate with him on these situations and how he could be able to help. So, well, we love y'all. We'll talk to y'all next Monday.
Hmm.
Well, I think next Monday we're gonna talk about a subject that I wanted to talk about, and then we'll get back to the marriage vows. But I want to talk about this whole Will and Jada situation.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
It's a doozy.
Hmm.
I want to talk about
We
that.
got to bring it to the wall, y'all.
We
To the
got to bring
wall.
it. We got to bring it to the wall. Listen, if you all want us to talk about something, comment down below. Our email address is coming up right there on the screen for you. Email us. You can comment. You can give us
Feedback.
some type of feedback. If you have questions, or you have, like I said, or you have topics for us to be able to try to cover, because I'm telling you, we've been through it all. So it's not something that we haven't. It's not any of these vows that we have not been through. So you know, we love you guys, and we'll see you next time on the blue wall.
On the blue wall.
On the blue wall, right
See you
there.
next week.
See you next week.